Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and today we're taking a look at some of the essentials you might want to have as part of your car's survival kit. Let's check them out. So the reason we're taking a look at this topic today is a little less than a week ago we had a big storm hit our region here, and a big stretch of I-95, the major East Coast interstate, was essentially shut down for like a day and a half in some cases. That stranded motorists on this road with nowhere to go, no way to get off. And that stretch of road was essentially right outside our back door. If trees weren't in the way, you could practically see this stretch of highway from our office. So it's a perfect time to revisit the kind of things you want to keep in your car to kind of ease your time if you were to be stranded in this type of situation or several others. Like, it's not just a wintertime scenario we're going to take a look at. So I've got some gear in front of me here, but this stuff is going to be in addition to some stuff you should already have in your car. Stuff like maybe a tire inflator, signaling and safety stuff if you get broken down on the side of the road, that sort of thing. You should also have some food and water with you. Generally, maybe like 2 days worth for every person who's going to be with you in the car. And of course, stick to non-perishable things that aren't going to require cooking as well when you're picking your food, and stuff that'll be able to stand up to extreme swings in temperature as well. But this stuff, in addition to kind of augmenting that, is also a good basis for some outdoor gear, just some good camping stuff. So it's not just something that might sit in a car and never get used again. You got a solid basis to just get out in the outdoors. On that subject, the first thing you're going to want is some kind of bag to keep all this stuff organized. And I'm going to try to keep a lot of these things here as affordable as I can where I can, because this could be a lot of stuff if you're putting this kit together from scratch. So we don't want to get too out there, but you might already have a pack. In fact, most people have a lot of extra bags laying around probably at home already. If not, it doesn't have to be huge. Something like this right here. It's a Red Rock Outdoor Gear Cactus Hydration Pack. It's about 50 bucks. And most of the stuff in front of me right here could be made to fit inside this. Be a little tight, but you could do it. A couple outside packs, or a couple outside pockets. This also comes with a hydration bladder, 2.5 liters. That could be a place you could store your water. I will say though, if that water happens to freeze, it might be a little more difficult to get to it, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. But something like that to keep things organized, as well as carry the stuff with you if you have to abandon your vehicle in one of these situations. But first, let's talk about tools to help get you unstuck. Could be snow, could be an obstruction in the road, could be something wrong with your car that might just need a simple fix, a simple tweak. And on that, one thing that I keep in every glove box of the vehicles I own is a good multi-tool. I think I've got either a Wave or a Charge from Leatherman in mine, but the Wingman is a great option. A little more expensive than some of the other stuff we'll see today, but a good multi-tool is probably going to cost a little bit of money. Just about 70 bucks for this. Folds open. You've got a spring-loaded set of pliers. You've got your screwdriver bits, etc. on the inside. Outside accessible, you've got a nice pair of sturdy scissors right here. We've also got a partially serrated blade. And I actually really like a partially serrated blade in this context, even though most of my EDCs, all of my EDCs aren't going to have serrations. But in a vehicular context, the serrations can be really helpful when having to cut through things like rubber, such as a hose or something like that. Really handy for some things that you might need that extra bit of bite to get through. And maybe a battery terminal's loose or something else. Could be a simple fix, and that could get you going and you're no longer stranded. If, however, you need a little bit more oomph, maybe, like I said, an obstruction in the road, can never go wrong with a good saw. And for my money, I'm a big fan of the Silky Saw products. Just the teeth on these seem to cut faster than just about anything else out there. Being this is a vehicle kit, you don't have to go super small, but you don't have to go super big either. I do like the big boy, which is a little bit bigger, but the GOM boy here is a really good place to start. Also a little pricier than some of this stuff, about 52 bucks. But like I said, for my money, it's definitely worth it. I've got a rubberized handle, nice cutting teeth, folds up onto itself quite nicely for transport. You even got 2 different cutting angles on that locking blade. I really can't say enough good things about a Silky Saw, and that might be just what you need to remove a branch that's preventing you from traversing further. Other things you might need, well, let's talk about knives. We're a knife shop, after all. Last time I checked, right, Thomas?
Yeah.
We're still a knife shop. Cold Steel SRK. Can never go wrong with having a good survival knife in the car for all kinds of reasons beyond just heavy-duty knife use that you may encounter on a vehicular basis. And on that note, it pains me to say it, being a knife guy, but this one, the knife here is probably a little less essential than some of the other gear we're going to look at today. But if you're going to have a knife, want to have a knife in your car, something like this is good. Again, relatively affordable. It's about 50 bucks. It is sturdy. We've got 3/16 inch thick SK5 carbon steel, very tough stuff. So it can stand up if you need to do some prying, which also pains me to say that because that's not what a knife is designed to do. But in a pinch, something strong like this is going to be very much an added bonus. Also, for cold weather, we've got a rubber overmolded handle. So that's going to, if you have to take your gloves off while using the knife, that's going to shield you from having to touch the cold steel of this here cold steel in one of those environments. Really solid, comes with a really nice sheath as well. Securex is the material, or at least that's what they call it. Snaps in, you've got a retention loop here. Just no bones about it, a solid, affordable survival knife. All right, next up in the tools to get you unstuck category, a nice folding shovel. Folding to keep things nice and compact so it doesn't take up a ton of room in your trunk. But whether it is for snow in a winter environment or mud, dirt, that sort of thing in a non-winter environment, this could be what you need to get you moving. A model like this is really nice in how compact it is. We've got a telescoping handle right there, and then you unscrew the head here at the top, and you can rotate that shovel open. Obviously, this is not the first choice if you're actually doing shovel work for the sake of shovel work, but it is going to get you through in a pinch. These things are fairly sturdy. I've had one of these myself for a number of years. It even has, if you fold it back up, it has on the opposite side here a hammering plate. So if you need to use that for any kind of hammering task, that could also work well for that. Even comes with a nice little nylon bag to keep things nice and tidy when it is not in use, and as well as keeping the rest of your gear clean, because if it's dirty, you can put it in that sack and not have to worry about things. Really good, pretty essential piece of kit for your emergency kit. Kit. Anyway, moving on from the tools to get you unstuck, we're going to talk about lighting. Obviously, you're probably not going to want to keep your car running the whole time, and you're not going to want to run your battery down by using the light the whole time. So what I recommend is a nice headlamp, and there's tons of different things on the market. I like something like this Fenix HL15. It's about 30 bucks because there's no extra wires or anything for a battery pack on the back. AAA batteries go right in the top. Make sure to have some extra batteries, of course, and I recommend going with lithium because they're, for one, lighter than alkaline, but they're also not going to corrode the same way alkaline batteries do. So for longer term storage, definitely a bonus. And I would actually go with something that takes a replaceable battery cell, like some AAAs. There could be a temptation to use something that could like plug into a USB outlet to recharge, but if you're trying to conserve the gas in your car and you happen to run out, you're not going to want to then start the car up just to charge your little headlamp. So a few extra batteries are no problem. And this is something you should have in your car anyway, regardless of whether it's a part of this kit or not. Pair it up with that multi-tool. If you're looking under the hood of your car, that little light is going to be pretty essential. About 200 lumens on this guy, which is plenty for this type of scenario. All right, the next option is both lighting as well as heat. Something you'll see recommended a lot for winter car survival especially is candles. And a lot of times folks will recommend the little Ti-Lites, but I think those can be a little bit fiddly, although they are very compact. I really like this right here. It's the UCO, the original candle lantern. It comes about 20 bucks and a couple of different colors. It's got the globe that pulls up to the top and a 9-hour candle here at the bottom. And it's actually spring-loaded from the bottom, so it pushes it up through this shield at the top to help it last as long as they say it is going to. Gives you a little bit of illumination, which can be a really big psychological boon. And don't laugh about, the little comment about warmth. That little flame actually can put some heat off into your vehicle if you're trying to keep things warm without running the engine. I will say, however, there's things you can combine with that to make it a little bit stronger, and that would be something like an emergency blanket. And no, an emergency blanket is not really something you wrap up in to keep warm. That's not really what they're best at. Should have mentioned having enough warm weather gear or even a sleeping bag in your trunk if you're going through winter weather, because that's going to do more to keep your body warm personally. But something like this, it's the UST Ultimate Survival Blanket 2.0. 18 bucks, and I know that's a lot more expensive than those little folded silver things you can get from like dollar stores. But those things are very fragile, really prone to shredding. I'd go with something a little bit more rugged like this. Two-sided. You've got orange on the outside, which is really good for signaling, and you've got reflective material on the inside, very important. Also good for signaling, but also really good for reflecting heat. If you line the inside of your car with it, this can reflect heat back into and back towards yourself rather than going out the glass pane of the window, essentially. Other thing you can do with something like this, which is a fairly large piece, and it does fold down much more compact than this, you can actually section off the interior of your car so you're sitting in not as large of an open space, and that can do even more, bouncing heat back from the candle and from your body heat into the smaller compartment where you're sitting. Good reason to keep something like duct tape around as well if you need to kind of tape it up to the ceiling. Alternatively, if this is a hot weather scenario, you can put the reflective surface facing outside, and that can reflect some rays of the sun away from you and hopefully not heat up the interior of your car as much. These are also windproof, really good for shelter purposes, especially if you want to crack a window with the flame going inside of your car. That can keep the wind from coming in through that crack. And I should say, caveat, make sure to be safe with a flame in the car. I'm not here to be able to tell you exactly what you need to do, but
oxygen's important.
Oxygen's important. Be reasonable. There's plenty of resources out there from the experts talking about this stuff. Make sure to listen to what they are saying as well. But those are good pieces of gear. Now, next up, you're gonna wanna be able to light that, won't you? For long term, I really like something like this Exotac fireSLEEVE. It pairs up with just the everyday Bic lighter. And obviously there's plenty of other like survival fire starters out there that, if you know what you're doing, can be very effective. But for most people, putting a kit together for long-term storage, a Bic lighter in one of these is fantastic. I actually picked up one of these fireSLEEVEs when Exotac first launched the product on their Kickstarter, 2016?
I wasn't there.
Thomas wasn't there. These are about 15 bucks now, and I've had the original lighter I had in one of those guys. It's still good. I don't use it a heck of a lot, but it's waterproof. It's gonna keep things from leaking out in a pack, so it works for storage that way. It floats as well, which could be a handy thing. Just make sure you put a fresh one in there, and it's gonna be good to go for quite a long time. All right, next up, we talked about water earlier, and I talked about it, what if it freezes, heaven forbid, or even worse than that, what if you have to resort to melting snow to get water, which if you don't know, it takes a lot of snow to melt down to get a little bit of drinking water. So you can use your candle for some stuff like that, but you're gonna need a metal container. Now, stuff like this Vargo titanium camping cup set, very popular. It fits around a Nalgene bottle, which is handy. These can be a little bit pricey though. This one's about $55 right now. Certainly gonna work, and you can hold it over that candle flame, which there is a little bit of a heat shield right there to protect the interior of your vehicle, certainly. But that's gonna help you out a little bit. But what I really like, rather than an expensive titanium mug like this, is this aluminum mess tin from ESEE, 15 bucks. And it's a really nice shape for storing a bunch of these other pieces of gear in while you're not using it. Really nice. Then when you do need to use it, you can still melt water or melt snow in there if you need to, or heat things up that way. It's not gonna be as natural feeling to drink out of it, but Doesn't matter. That's not what it's here for every day. One thing that you ought to keep in with your food, however, a couple tea bags. If you're having a really long, hard night, a nice hot cup of tea in your car could just be a nice little thing to keep your morale up. And a tea bag weighs next to nothing, so pop one of those guys in there. Now, if you're not keen on having a flame inside your vehicle for something like this, I definitely get it. But I would still recommend having something to do these two things with, melting snow or icy water. And something that's gonna work really well right outside your vehicle, old school ultralight backpacker's favorite, the Esbit small foldable pocket stove. Comes with about 6 of these little fuel tablets. You can pop it right in the middle, light it with your fireSLEEVE or with your Bic lighter right there, and then you can place your mug or whatever else right on top of that. About 13 bucks for these guys, and then separate fuel tabs are also available. Again, takes up next to no room. The fuel tabs itself can actually live inside the stove while not in use, and then you can put that inside that tin if you want to keep things nice and cozy. All right, so I mentioned morale a second ago with the tea bag, which can lift your spirits a little bit, sure, but you want to stay sane in a situation like this. If you've got the basics covered, if you've got the food and the drink you need, if you've got the warmth and the shelter you need, the next thing is keeping your mind sane. Perfect example. Senator from Virginia was doing his commute from Richmond to DC during this storm, and it's about a 2-hour trip to 3-hour trip depending on traffic. It took him like 37 hours, if I'm remembering correctly, to get to DC because he was just stuck for so long in that stretch of 95. So, what are you gonna do to keep yourself going? Plenty of options out there. Obviously, a lot of us have our devices nowadays, but keeping them charged up over that period of time, if you're trying to conserve your gas, can be an issue. Can be mitigated a little bit with battery packs, sure. But something low tech, like a deck of cards, is just pure money. Especially if you're dealing with like a family situation. There's more than one of you in the car. This is something, a group activity you guys can do to keep yourselves going. This K-bar set is pretty cool. It actually has on the face of the card some wayfinding directions, so you can kind of quiz up on those as you go. About 13 bucks for this set, which is a little bit of a lot for a deck of cards, I'll grant you. But you do get the added informational boost right there, and plus we're knife people. How cool is a K-bar deck of cards? You could also go with something like this Maxpedition set right here, the Tactical Field Deck all-weather playing cards. And yes, I am shaking my head a little bit at the thought of calling playing cards tactical, but these are like $6 actually, so even way less than the K-bars right there. And they're made of PVC, so they're not gonna get wet and crumble away on you. Could be a good thing in any kind of camping scenario, really. But whether you're playing solitaire or playing rummy or whatever else with the kids in the car, something to pass the time and keep everyone's spirits high. Definitely that mental aspect, so important in any kind of emergency or survival scenario. Well, that's all I've got to show you today. Hopefully this kind of helps you see some things, get thinking about things that are gonna work for you in your environment. For instance, while that saw is gonna work great for me right here, maybe you live in Central Florida and maybe a machete is gonna be better for your environment. Keep that in mind as well. If you want to get your hands on any of these things, we will leave links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program so that when you buy one of these items, you'll at least earn some free money to spend on your next ones. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. Stay safe out there, everyone. See you next time.